Hello. I'm guessing you can't hear me or see me just yet. I'm just finalizing a couple of things, but let me know if you can. Oh, great. That's great. I didn't actually think it had started. It still said connect streaming software to go live on my little YouTube dashboard, but that's great. That's great. Well, hello. Welcome, Fox fans. Welcome to the Foxy Book Club. Let me see who we've got. Liam has popped in. Oh, and thank you to Ada as well for subscribing. Yeah, Liam got here early, so welcome to you, Liam, and hello to Will, and hello to Shannon, who says I'm home, which is a very sweet sentiment. And welcome to Kate, and hello to Faye. Very nice to see you. And I've just noticed, Faye, that you are a channel member. You're an official Fox fan. I'd not noticed that. That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me. I've not actually had a look at my member list for a couple of days. I'm just gonna pop it open. I've got curious now. See if there's anybody else I've missed. I don't think so. Checked it a few days ago. Yeah, you joined up yesterday by the looks of it, Faye. Oh, that's really kind. Thanks ever so much. I just saw your little fox with the crown. Lovely stuff. And hi to Jacob as well. Jacob. Very nice to see you. And hello to Laura as well. I'm wondering if this is Laura or Lily. I'm never sure in the beginning. But very nice to see you in the chat as always. And hello to Olivia. Lovely to see you also. And yeah, thanks for just helping me out there. I didn't actually think it had connected yet. But good stuff. And welcome to Victoria as well. And welcome to Luca. And Luca says, is there an audiobook coming soon? Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of weeks ago, I finished The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, of course. Did that in secret rather than leaking out a chapter here and there and everything. Just shared a little preview on Patreon, or like a little suggestion of what was coming on Patreon. But I dropped that a couple of Sundays ago. So if you've not listened to that one yet, strongly recommend it. I really enjoyed it. For those of you that are a fan of Dracula, it's a must listen. But to be honest, I think it could appeal to very many people. It's a very captivating story, incredibly famous. But as a few of you have said, and I've sort of insinuated as well, sometimes just because a book is incredibly famous doesn't mean you want to read it. Sometimes you feel like you've heard the name of a particularly famous book, or sort of like series or character so many times, and you've seen it depicted so many different times and often parodied and all the rest of it, that you sort of struggle to take it seriously. You know, it's like people have said it with Dracula, Frankenstein, Jekyll and Hyde, many things, and you just sort of think, I don't know. I feel like I know what it's all about. It's not going to be interesting. Sometimes you think it's going to be a bit silly or whatever. But Jekyll and Hyde was absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed it. And with it being a short book as well, it was nice for me to be able to just really get stuck in. And I recorded the whole thing quite intensely just over a few days. Then I had a little bit of re-recording to do. Big stack of editing, but I was just really enjoying myself and working very effectively over a few days. And I was able to basically get that out for Halloween. It was sort of a day or two later than I really, really wanted. But so there's that. And of course, there's going to be more chapters of Dracula. So I had sort of intended to get chapter 21 finished for today, and it's just not happened, unfortunately. But also answering your question, Luca, I've got an official audiobook for Audible on its way as well. So I was contacted by an indie author, as he describes himself, and he said that he'd been really enjoying the samples that I'd got on Audible's audiobook creation exchange website, and he'd listened to some Dracula, and thought that I was the man for the job. So I think he just completely skipped the audition phase, which is a real compliment as well. He was just basically like, when can you get started? I had a look through the script, agreed to that, and I've been working quite intensely on that and got that wrapped up a couple of days ago. So that's completely finalized. He's really, really happy with it. Yeah, I mean, you saw me begin recording that audiobook a few weeks ago as part of these couple of behind the scenes videos that I made. So there was one video of me beginning recording. It's called The Scrooge of Bitcoin, A Christmas Tale. And it's sort of a parody of, or based upon the structure of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. Surprise, surprise, with the Scrooge reference. But he's basically playing on the appeal of Bitcoin versus the sort of old traditional banking system. So there's a parody of a particular high-powered banker who sort of plays the Scrooge role, and then there's a particular worker of hers who's standing up, taking a stand against her, and sort of rebelling against the system. And he's found Bitcoin, which is for him sort of like a guiding star, and helping him to break out of this old system that he sees as very restrictive and controlling and things. So it's a short story, just a little novella, and a lot of fun. And it was one of those where, like, a few of you have commented. I shared a 10-minute preview of the finished audiobook on my channel just a few days ago. And a few of you commented that it's a good one for my evil female voice acting, which I like. I've got mixed feelings about it. Like, I feel sometimes I feel a bit bad for playing these like evil female characters. It's sort of a strange dynamic. But to be honest, I do have a lot of fun with it. So, I've had like the Wicked Witch of Narnia in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, which was fun. And there's been various, not always evil characters, but sort of like disliked characters or whatever. Like, there was a good couple of characters in Harry Potter. You're introduced to Aunt Petunia very early on, and she was a lot of fun to voice. Good practice in general, Harry Potter, for the female voices, obviously with Hermione and Professor McGonagall and Trelawney is always good fun. So I've been working on that, and even though I'd got this deadline this week to get that completely finished, I was still hoping to get a Dracula chapter out for today, but chapter 21 is a real... I mean, there's been a lot of cliffhangers and there's been a lot of thrilling chapters in Dracula, no doubt. But this one is... it's a page turner. There's a lot going on. It's quite a complex chapter in terms of a narrator's job. There's quite a few voices, quite a fundamental chapter that sort of takes us into the final act of this book now. So I didn't want to rush it, and I was quite tired, to be honest. Like I've been working a lot on my audio projects recently. I've been putting a lot of time into Jekyll and Hyde and Scrooge of Bitcoin and other things, So, to be honest, I had a couple of days where I didn't pressure myself to get recording, even though there was like a little gremlin at the back of my mind saying like, come on, if you want to get this done for Sunday, you need to get moving. But I needed a little bit of a breather as well. So, but Dracula will absolutely be resuming soon. So, chapter 21, like as certain as I possibly can be, will be ready for next Sunday. And if I can get chapter 22 done for next Sunday as well, I will. I do enjoy these like little double bill releases. I think it's quite good fun. We've tried that a couple of times. But if not, I'll try and make chapter 21 an absolute minimum. And then after that, there will only be 6 chapters left. So we're really very much in the final stages there. And then after that, I've got quite quite a rigid plan sort of like laid out as to what I want to work on next. There's 2 projects that I've already got started that I'm going to be working on, and I'll see if I want to start something new as well. I might just try and make some good progress in these projects that I've already got going first, and then start something fresh. Olivia was saying that you were having the progress bar doing funny things, but yeah, this is absolutely live. You're not trapped in the past or anything. So it is you, Laura. Oh, it's a pleasure to see you. Good stuff. Yeah, I don't think there's been any connection problems on my side. Everything looks very smooth on my side. Just with Luca saying, could it be something to do with me? But I don't think so. Oh, and welcome to Juz as well. Lovely to see you, Juz. Welcome. Hello to Nat as well. And yeah, Jacob's just saying, hope everybody's well. Yeah, I echo that sentiment, Jacob. I hope you're all doing well. I know it's been a crazy time in America, and it's continuing to be a crazy time over in the United States. I've been following that very closely. And, who isn't sick and tired of COVID-19 and the whole corona situation? So, as a lot of you know, I live in Sweden, and Sweden hasn't had an official governmental lockdown for various reasons. But it's still been far from fun. And I live in a county, in a region that's actually got the strictest regulations during this period, especially with this sort of second peak on its way and everything. So, I have been pretty immobile for this last, unbelievably, it's almost a year that this has been going on, of course. But particularly over these last couple of months, I've like barely been leaving this tiny little town north of Stockholm where I'm living. So, yeah, I'm sick of it, to be fair. I know we all are. And I still feel lucky to be where I am, and I know a lot of you out there are having a rougher time than I am, but honestly, I really hope things begin to improve as soon as possible. But I hope you're doing good, and I hope that a little bit of live reading and a little bit of book club chat and everything can brighten your day and your week a little. Yeah, just seeing Emmett throwing in the compliments as well. Very nice to see you, and thanks ever so much, Emmett. That's very kind of you. Yeah, and Laura, I hope things are going well for you. It sounds like it's been a stressy time. Oh, good stuff. Yeah, don't worry if you need a nap. I've not watched much of The Crown. I think we might have mentioned that in a book club once before, actually. I have watched the first series, and I saw that season 4 has just come out, and it looked pretty good, actually. Some interesting themes being raised in season 4 from what I've seen. I have been watching The Queen's Gambit, though, and although it's been trending on Netflix and the reviews have generally been pretty good, I really didn't set too high expectations on that. I really wasn't sure what I'd make of it. But me and Maria, we've nearly finished it, and I've got to say I've enjoyed it, by the by. I think initially there were like various things that were frustrating me a little bit, but it's a pretty solid show. So I'm curious whether any of you have seen it. Like, a few of you know I'm quite a chess fan, and that's one of those things. Sometimes if you actually are really into the subject area that a particular show or movie or whatever is covering, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to enjoy it. You can get pretty annoyed if you feel like things are not being depicted very accurately or whatever. But yeah, generally I've enjoyed The Queen's Gambit, so I'd be sort of curious to see if anybody out there has been watching it as well. Like I said, it's been trending on Swedish Netflix. It's like second on the trending section, so I'm sure many of you have seen it. And Luca's asking about Harry Potter, whether that could come back. I mean, sadly, not in the near future. I would absolutely love to continue HP, as you know. But like with Lord of the Rings, I was told very strictly by one of the publishers that I had to cease my unofficial recordings of Harry Potter, which was rather devastating, to say the least. But who knows what the future holds, Luca? Who knows in the future? And hello to Claire as well, popping in. Very nice to see you. Yeah, you were one of those that I had in mind, Olivia, when I was talking about Jekyll and Hyde and those other series. So, yeah, it's been lovely to read your comments on that, Olivia, actually, and to hear how much you've been enjoying it when you were somewhat surprised yourself that you were going to be into some of these. So that's really, really, really nice. And hello to Madeline as well. Very nice. There's a couple of fresh faces here, but there's some long-term Fox fans, which is always really nice to see as well. Yeah, tell me about it, Shannon. Tell me about it. That's one of the things. I think because I'm not living in my home country, although Sweden hasn't been the worst affected by COVID-19. I mean, obviously, it's been very serious here. But it just feels like when I compare my situation to the situation back home in England, where they're now in their second lockdown. So although we've had very strict guidelines here, we haven't had an official lockdown. So yeah, in those regards, I feel lucky to be here. But at the end of the day, a lot of my old friends back home and my mum and my dad and my elderly grandma who barely been able to see any family or anything for months now. And my cat and stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's very strange. I've not been home for a year now. Not seen my parents for a year, and I normally try and see my mum and dad. More like 3 times a year or something like that. So I'd planned to go over in the spring, and there was actually a patron of mine that was asking if I would go over and do some live reading at this beautiful, cozy country house in North Yorkshire for her partner's mum's birthday. Was it like her 70th birthday or something like that? And it sounded wonderful. So she was actually like hoping I'd do a live book club gig, which sounded absolutely amazing. But it was scheduled basically just as Corona was really starting to kick off at the start of the year. So I very, very sadly had to decline. And I was hoping to go home for a week, see mum and dad and Harry the cat and my gran and whoever else, and also to get involved with this birthday celebration as well, which I thought sounded absolutely lovely. But that whole trip got cancelled, and then here we are 9 months later, and we're now closer to the end. So it is frustrating, to say the very least. Oh, that sounds great, Liam. That sounds great. You're very welcome to join me over on Patreon. I appreciate that very, very much. Yeah, I've talked about that a lot, Emmett. I did make a video on the whole Lord of the Rings situation quite a few weeks ago, and there's a couple of posts on my community tab on my YouTube channel as well, where I talk in quite a bit of detail about the whole thing. So I won't go into specifics now, but yeah, please watch the video if you're interested, and thanks so much for the praise as well. So many of you were really, really enjoying those, and it was totally gutting to have to stop. I mean, I guess it wasn't a surprise really, but just such a shame on many levels. But yeah, what can you do? Yeah, really nice to have you here, Jacob. And as you know, like these live streams, I always save them as well. So you can always skim through. I've got various playlists on my channel, so you can go through the Red Fox Book Club playlist. And then I've got playlists for my full audiobooks and the chapter by chapter things, and then specific books, and even like the gaming videos and wildlife videos and other things as well. So skim through the playlists. There might be some other things that you've missed if you've been busy. Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention as well was the colour out of space. So my plan today, I'm going to get reading in just a minute, or I'm going to put it up to the vote, and then I'll get reading as soon as we've had a little vote. But basically, reading one, I would like to read another one of the Brothers Grimm fairy tales, because I think people have been enjoying them quite a lot. There's been some really nice comments on that. So I wanted to put it up to the vote as to what fairy tale you would like to hear next from the Grimm brothers. And then the second reading that I wanted to do today was from my HP Lovecraft short stories collection. So a lot of you really enjoyed the audiobook soundscape that I made with the crackling fireplace and everything, and the dynamic storm sound effects that I put together with HP Lovecraft's The Colour Out of Space. And of course that whole audiobook, if you've listened to it, short story audiobook, was read in character voice because I just didn't want to do it as myself. I've been enjoying, I've been enjoying the challenge with Dracula, of having to read everything in character voice as there is no neutral narrator. And at the time of doing The Colour Out of Space, a couple of months ago, I'd been very intensely working on The Lord of the Rings, where there is obviously a narrator and then there's just bits of character dialogue. So I was sort of missing that challenge, that aspect, but wasn't ready to jump back into Dracula properly because I wanted to keep making some progress with Lord of the Rings. But I was wanting to just experiment with a couple of things. So I was playing around with using video and actually recording the turning of the pages and everything with a couple of things. And I wanted to have a play around with making a dynamic, interesting soundscape. And therefore, to sort of set the scene, I wrote a little script for this unnamed character of my own little creation who was basically reading H.P. Lovecraft's The Colour Out of Space to you, but presenting it as if it could be that it could be reality, basically. So that he'd heard of this story from somewhere. He'd got this bunch of notes or whatever from this also unnamed journalist who is actually in the book writing his account. So I took that role and gave him a particular character voice to present that whole story. But as I have this physical book of short stories by H.P. Lovecraft, and a lot of you enjoyed the story itself, not just the soundscape and the presentation, and there are a lot of H.P. Lovecraft fans out there in general. So I thought, as I've got the physical book, it's very cozy on a book club to just read from the pages. So I was thinking of putting this up to the vote as well, but some of these stories are a bit longer on the short story scale, particularly a couple of the more famous ones. So The Shadow over Innsmouth and The Call of Cthulhu, two of the most famous ones in this compilation, are on the longer side, and I would rather, for a book club, I'm enjoying these shorter stories that we can get through, and then read something else without either one reading going on for a very, very long time, which is tiring for me as well. Equally, if someone joins halfway through, they're gonna have missed a lot. Or equally, if we need to break it up over several streams, it's a little bit harder to keep track of things. So I have been enjoying the Brothers Grimm's fairy tales, not just because they're fun stories and very iconic, but also they're very short and sweet. So I was thinking of just reading the first story from this compilation, which isn't one I've read. I just skimmed it a few months ago when I got this book, and it's very short, but I thought, hey, I could just give it a read live, see what you think. We can have a little bit of a talk about it afterwards, and then we'll just take things from there. So that's the rough plan. Let me just catch up with the chat, and then I'll see if you've got an idea or a recommendation for a Brothers Grimm fairy tale that you would like to hear today. And if you need some assistance, I can happily read off the contents page and we'll see if anything sticks. And what was the one that you suggested, by the way, Shannon? You mentioned a very peculiarly named Brothers Grimm fairy tale on Discord, and I forgot what it was called, and I meant to have a look for it, and I forgot. But let me just catch up with the chat first. What was going on? Oh, no, I didn't read that as an insult at all, Light Weaver. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed the little sample. Yeah, I got it finished just a few days ago. I was mentioning that earlier. Yeah, it went really well, thank you. Oh, and welcome to Mimi as well. Very nice to see you. Thanks for saying hello. Um, The Inheritance. I can't say I know that one, Luke. I would have to look it up. Just checking I've not missed anybody else popping in. Yeah, I mean that's true, Olivia. I mean, obviously the most iconic evil female character that I've read recently would be the Grand High Witch from The Witches, which yeah, I got really into that, and this Mamie Simon that's sort of the main protagonist, main antagonist in the Scrooge of Bitcoin. I couldn't help but somewhat base her character on this Grand High Witch character. So she doesn't have the accent, but some of the same feeling. So it was actually quite a nice practice. I'm glad I'd read The Witches before doing the Scrooge of Bitcoin. It lent itself quite nicely. But yeah, like you said, it's down to the authors after all. There are a lot of these older evil lady characters, as you say. Oh, you're mentioning Christmas readings, Mimi. Yeah, this Night Before Christmas poem was on my agenda last Christmas, and I didn't get it read. So we read A Christmas Carol, Dickens's A Christmas Carol, which I am meaning to edit up into a little audiobook, even though it was read live. That is on my to-do list, so I'll make sure to get that finished for Christmas. But yeah, apart from this, apart from this Night Before Christmas recommendation, not sure. If there's a public domain, copyright free Christmassy story that you've got in mind, please leave me a comment. I'm very up for recommendations. So I mean, you can write it here if you wish, but there's a very good chance I'll forget about it. But if you leave me a regular comment actually on the video itself, then I will try and make sure I make a note of it. So very much up for Christmas story suggestions. Oh, and thank you so much to Shannon for the $5. It's only just popped up on my screen, even though I saw it jump into the chat like 30 seconds before. The Mouse, the Bird, and the Sausage. What a ridiculous name. I love it. Absolutely love that, Shannon. Thank you so much for the super chat donation. It's very, very kind. Let me just look that up whilst it's in my head. Are you saying that this is in your particular copy that you downloaded? Or found, Shannon? Because it doesn't sound familiar. Sounds brilliant. But it doesn't sound familiar. No. Many animals mentioned in these story names, but not that wonderful combination. No. Honestly, don't remember seeing that in any particular version of the Grimm's fairy tales. Although it sounds great fun. Let me just keep bashing through the chat, and then when I've caught up, I'm gonna Try and get a vote going. Reading about your gremlin dog, Claire. Yeah, let's hope we can have as smooth a finish to 2020 as possible, eh, Mimi? Let's hope so. Cheers, Windhammer. Much appreciated. You were saying that my Dracula reading is dank. Cheers. Oh, and welcome to Punk Rotten. So you've changed your name here as well. So that's Lady Bookworm. Long time follower. I can't believe you've made it, to be honest. I cannot believe you've made it. I'll call you Punk Rotten now, Lynette, because that's your name. So, but yeah, you know, it's crazy late for you. So I'm very sorry that I started the stream later than I'd hoped. We'd been talking over on Discord. But very nice to see you. You've just missed some chat. Nothing too essential. Let's hope not, Windhammer. Let's hope not. And Faye's mentioning Queen's Gambit. You loved it. Oh, fair enough. I've only got one episode to go of this series, if they do make a second series. So I'm on episode 7, called Endgame or Endgames. So yeah, you loved it. Oh, and Anjum has just been saying the same. Oh, good stuff. Yeah, like I said, I wasn't quite sure at first, but I warmed to it. There's like certain things that I would have changed in my head, you know what I mean? If I'd have made it, I would have obviously made it considerably worse. But, you know, there was just like a couple of things. But generally, I enjoyed it. That sounds intense, Shannon. That's a lot of voices in your ears. Yeah, I recommend it. I recommend it. And it's certainly Queen's Gambit, certainly not a show for chess lovers per se. I'm not saying that you won't enjoy it if you are a chess lover. I think you definitely could. But it's very accessible, extremely accessible, very beginner friendly in presentation. And I've not read the book either, by the way. So I don't know if it was accurate to the book. I don't know if any of you have read the Queen's Gambit book. But as a show, very accessible. I think anybody could potentially enjoy it. I almost feel like if you know too much about chess, you might get too critical. Because like even with my like intermediate knowledge, you can sort of be a bit like, really? Like would they really say that? You know, and get a bit frustrated that you like sometimes they're skipping through the games extremely fast and like changing the camera angle all the time, so it's very hard to really appreciate what's going on a lot of the time. But sometimes like when there's a more fundamental game, they do slow it down, if only for a couple of minutes, and then you get a better idea. But I mean, it's a very nicely presented series. Sometimes I almost felt it was too nicely presented. You know, like there's some very gritty, dark themes, but sometimes I felt it was a little bit romanticized. But other times it really gives you a stomach punch, and it's very emotive, and pretty well written, and I think the character development is excellent as well. Beth really has a journey through those episodes, so. It actually reminded me a little bit of A Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett that I started quite a while ago, which I will be continuing. That was one of the stories that I was suggesting that I will be continuing after Dracula. But it has a similar beginning. Oh, don't you worry, Laura. You take care. Thanks ever so much for popping in, even if you've got to go get some sleep. It's just really nice to see you. Much appreciated. Take care and say hello to Lily for me as well. And welcome to Madeline Claire. Very nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, absolutely, Anjum. I felt like I said to Maria, I was like annoying Maria, like pausing it every 5 minutes, commenting on things, and very quickly I said it feels like she's a mix of Bobby Fischer, Paul Morphy, and I don't know who the third is. I mean, there is a famous Hungarian female chess player. I'm not sure when she was prevalent, but it that could be the third, I would imagine, because she is a fictional character, somewhat unfortunately. As yeah, well, women were not given that representation at all in the 1950s, 60s. So yeah, almost sad that she's a fictional character. I wish she had have existed. Oh, and Shannon, thanks so much. You've thrown in 2 more $5 donations. Thanks so much. You posted the whole story on Discord. Oh, thanks so much. Of the mouse, the bird, and the sausage. I am pretty curious, to be honest. And thank you so much for the super chat, Shannon, or super chats. Did you send that through twice by accident? Oi, oi. I'm sorry if you accidentally threw in an extra one there. But thank you so much for the super chat. I'm trying so hard to catch up with this chat, and I'm really failing right now. It's just some interesting chat. Yeah, I can totally understand that, Mimi, that you're enjoying the 50s, 60s vibes. It's very well presented in that regard. Some wonderful costume design, set design, fantastic attention to detail, I think. Yeah. No, I've not seen that one, Emmett. The Wandering Inn. No, I've not. Sounds like I should check it out, though, if it's chess related. I'm like really trying to catch up with the chat. Lynette asking about the headphones. Yeah, they're the headphones that I use for running. So there's some like pretty basic Skull Candy headphones that I stole off my mum, Mama Fox, a long time ago. So yeah, it's some headphones, and it does look a bit Dreamcatchery, actually. The other thing, but it's not. It's an old necklace of Maria's, actually, and it's tangled up with the wires of the headphones. But it is quite convenient. And honestly, like when I've just got back from a run, if I've been wearing those headphones, they're very sweaty. So just hanging them up on the hook allows it to dry. So it is kind of handy. Yeah, that is definitely a part of it, Anjum. You're just talking about in Sweden, the government have been relying on people using their common sense. And it's sort of like people have been commenting that it's sort of within the Swedish spirit to be, I'm not going to say conformist, but historically, at least within the last 50, 60, 70 years, there's generally been quite a lot of trust with the Swedish people in their government. So apparently that's had quite a positive effect on things. That basically, if the government says, hey, we need to put these particular guidelines in place, there's this pandemic going on, we don't know that much right now, but we're doing everything we can, that people in general sort of say, okay, we'll listen to you, we'll try our best. So it's been far from perfect. There's been all sorts of issues as well. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, that has been commented upon, Anjum. But also bear in mind that Sweden only has a population of about 10 million people stretched over a country 3 or 4 times larger than Great Britain. So it's generally quite sparsely populated. Not as sparsely populated as some countries, but Stockholm is a substantial capital city, but nothing like the scale of New York or London or Paris or even Berlin. So I imagine that it's been more manageable to have this particular method in Sweden than it would have been in the UK, for example, or in the United States, or in many other countries. So, and cheers to Lynette, Miss Bookworm, Punk Rotten, for becoming a channel member as well, for becoming an official Fox fan. Much appreciated, Lynette. Thank you so much for that. It's really cool. I'm gonna keep going with the chat though, or I'm never gonna make it. Never gonna make it. Oh wow, Jacob saying you've not seen your family for 2 years. Yeah, I know people similar in that, like similar sort of situation, and yeah, that's rough. I think that's really rough. Like I said, it's been almost a year. Was it over a year? No, almost a year since I've seen my mum and dad, and yeah, it's rubbish. It's rubbish. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just gonna move this little announcement box over slightly. It was a bit cut off. Hopefully that's better. Yeah, but you've just got to do what you've got to do. Wow, Faye, you're saying that you're going back into restrictions for the 3rd time in California now. Goodness me. And it's only getting tougher as well. Like if you're in the northern hemisphere, winter's coming in, darkness is coming in, especially in the higher latitudes, of course. So it just feels like it exaggerates everything. So, I really feel for you. But wish you all the best. Tim Curry. I've got to say, like, Tim Curry's never really been so on my radar, David. And welcome as well, by the way, David. Thanks for joining. I'm just trying to... I just need, like, a little jog of my memory here. Yeah, I mean, I know he's a big name, but I just feel like he's a bit before my time, to be fair. So, like, I've seen the original Stephen King's It. I've seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show a couple of times. But yeah, he's like just never really been on my radar, I suppose. Lots of quarantine chat, yeah. It's crazy, really. And welcome to JFSFMD as well. Welcome to the stream. Thanks for joining. Okay, so we're finally getting into a little bit more of the Grimm's fairy tale talk here. I might just read off a list of some of the more famous ones that we could choose from. Might just help out a little bit. And welcome to Mama Fox that was popping in. Yeah, you're just chatting about that whole situation as well. No. Thank you for the kind welcomes to Mama Fox. Much appreciated as always. And welcome to Errand. Errand. Yeah, I hope you're doing well as well. Nice to see you. And welcome to Ada as well, dropping in. Long time Fox fan and patron supporter over on Patreon. Many of you in the stream are patrons of mine, in fact, so thank you so much. I've not been really mentioning Patreon very much recently. Like, I'm still very, 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 very active on Patreon and everything. But I used to mention Patreon a lot, and I just got a bit aware that I didn't want to be driving you nuts by mentioning Patreon all the time. So I've been trying to lay off that. But support on Patreon is enormously appreciated, especially when there's been long periods of time where I've not been able to make any revenue on YouTube, and I've had big series like Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings removed and other things, and channels deleted and all the rest of it. So that constant support, emotionally and financially, over on Patreon has been absolutely incredible. So if you're a patron of mine and you're listening right now, thank you so much. I know I say thank you a lot, but I mean it every single time. So thank you so much. It's really, really, really wonderful. And welcome to Inexhaustible Receiver as well. Nice to see some new faces. I do appreciate that. And welcome to Katie Verkt as well. And thank you very much for the compliment. Yeah, thanks very much, Nicole. I'm sure that could be misconstrued, but I totally know what you mean. And welcome to... I'm so bad with these Russian letters. If you can translate your name into like Latin script or whatever, like into English for the sake of simplicity, I would much appreciate it. But hello to you from Belarus. Very nice to see you. I know, but that's exactly how I felt, Olivia. Like, as soon as Shannon mentioned that name, the mouse, the bird, and the sausage, it just sounded like a winner. Oh, glad to hear it, Jez. I'm glad that the lockdown is going a little bit smoother the second time around for you. And I hope that move has gone okay as well. And welcome to Elisif. Hope I pronounced that correctly. Welcome to the stream. My chat just skipped a little bit. Where was I? Yep. Oh gosh, yeah. Inexhaustible Receiver. You were mentioning Terry Pratchett's copyright. That is gonna be a long time. Probably a good 70 years or something. Yeah. Oh, that's really sweet of you as well. You were saying it's a great loss for humanity and literature that I can't read Terry Pratchett. Like, honestly, I would love to read Terry Pratchett. I've been a massive fan of Terry Pratchett since I was a kid. Likewise with Douglas Adams and The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I have read a little bit of that. I shared it on my very original YouTube channel about 3 years ago, and I read a few chapters live on Twitch a couple of years ago. But yeah, Douglas Adams, likewise with Terry Pratchett, wonderful comedy, sci-fi, fantasy authors and series and everything. But with them being relatively modern books, yeah, they are copyright protected, which I'm not going to lie, it is a real shame. I would love to narrate those books. Oh, that was your idea, was it, Shannon? I did wonder. You didn't want your message to get lost, so you threw it in the super chat. It's good thinking. Thank you. Yeah, I've been mentioning chapter 21 of Dracula. That's planned for next Sunday, Inexhaustible Receiver. So I had hoped to get it done for this Sunday, but with me working on this Audible audiobook, it did delay me, so I wasn't able to get it finished for today. And hello to Jasmine as well. I don't think I've said hello to you, so welcome to you. The Nutcracker book. I'm trying to think what that is. Not sure, Errant. I didn't know it was... Did I know it was based on a book? The ballet? Not sure. Oh, but Claire's recommending it also. Yeah, I know what you're saying, Faye. I think Christmas is a wonderful time of year. It's a very complex time of the year as well. It can be quite heavy. It depends. But when you're saying it burns you out, I wonder if that's just down to the fact that Christmas always seems to get earlier every year. I think if Christmas wasn't as commercial as it is in some countries, I feel like we would be able to just have more joy in a shorter period of time rather than feeling like there's 6 weeks of Christmas commercials and music and decorations and sales and all the rest of it. It's just like, yeah, all right, we get it. You want our money. But I think like Christmas, for what Christmas represents, I mean, it can be a lovely time of year. Yeah, I do. I've got my ninja mug here, Mama Fox. Yeah, well spotted. I believe so, Olivia. You were on about dank. Yeah, I believe so. Oh, good night, Madeline Claire. Thanks so much for joining. I hope you get a good rest. Oh, and welcome to Velvet as well. Nice to see you. Welcome, welcome. Am I? I'm. Oh my gosh, I'm not catching up at all. I'm not catching up. Oh, thanks so much, Jacob. That's really, really, really kind of you. Thank you for the super chat. And you were just saying, I hope this helps, that you can't stay for the rest of the stream. But yeah, lovely to chat to you a little bit, Jacob, and thank you so much for the £5 on the super chat as well. Massively appreciated. Every little helps. Honestly, it really means a lot. Thank you very, very much. Um, I'm I'm wondering if I should skip a little bit of the chat here and just get stuck in with some reading, because I feel like if I'm just going to keep trailing a little bit behind, but I love going through the chat. It's like one of the best bits of the book club for me, like catching up with you and having a little mingle. I'll just see if I can skim through a little bit quicker without missing anything. Fundamental. All right, yeah. Nutcracker is being called for. That's interesting. I didn't know that was such a favorite. No idea. No idea. Oh, yeah, cheers. Oh, and welcome to Joanna as well. Very nice to see you. Don't worry if you can't stay long. You know, you're all very welcome just to pop in and out. And, you know, I was thinking of mentioning the Zoom conference call idea that I was suggesting a few weeks ago. I feel like that's just too much of a distraction right now. But if I do give the Zoom call and I give that whole idea a go, it's the same with that. Like, it doesn't matter if you drop in and out, or whether you use your webcam and your microphone or not, or whether you just sit there in the shadows and lurk from behind your coffee cup. It doesn't matter. It's just to add like an extra little dynamic, and as a little special, you know, like a little once a month private live stream for channel members and patrons. And if you want to say hello and actually show your face and sort of be in the virtual audience, you're very welcome. And I was thinking we could maybe even find a book that we could read together. You know, maybe 5 or 6 of you would volunteer and you could actually read various characters with me. You know, so same idea with that. But, you know, with any of these live streams, don't worry about popping in and popping out, or if you're heading to bed. I just really appreciate you coming and saying hello in the chat. It's really nice, and it's lovely just to get to know you a little bit and actually interact with those of you that follow me and listen to my audiobooks and stuff. You know what I mean? So it's really nice. Someone was mentioning the Chronicles of Narnia, I think. Yeah, so that was another copyright thing, Velvet. I read all of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and the individual chapters are still on my channel, but the C.S. Lewis estate wrote to me many months ago and asked me to remove that complete audiobook. So I removed that. And I was thinking they were going to ask me to remove the parts as well, but they specifically mentioned that complete audiobook, so I removed that and ceased work on any future Chronicles of Narnia books. So didn't start Prince Caspian or Magician's Nephew or whatever, but really enjoyed The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. It was good fun. I prefer Lord of the Rings. I prefer Harry Potter, but still a great story. And in terms of enjoyment factor as a narrator, definitely a good one. There's lots of fun voices and stuff. So cool creatures, lots of silliness. I particularly enjoyed the Beavers, Mr. and Mrs. Beaver, that I sort of based on Mr. and Mrs. Weasley from Harry Potter. So this sort of like, because Mr. and Mrs. Weasley in Harry Potter, I gave all the Weasleys a Yorkshire accent, as I wanted something that was like familiar and close to me for the Weasleys, and I knew that I could do a good job if I did that. So the Weasleys are a Yorkshire family, and the Beavers were Yorkshire Beavers. So I had good fun. I had good fun with them, but yeah, another one. Yeah, I like it. Shannon was just like, copyright infringement again. Yeah, it's sad. It's a sad world. It's a wonderful world, don't get me wrong, but some stuff is, yeah, suboptimal. Oh, you're mentioning Dracula as well. Yeah, I've mentioned that a bunch. It's on its way. It's on its way. Yeah, I would love to, Anjum. It's something I've chatted about a lot in live streams, like talking about myself, like my background, how I got into this sort of thing. I was talking about like bullying at secondary school, I think, last live stream, so I do talk about myself. So I totally recommend you watching some of my past live streams. Like there was a few Sundays ago, there was one the Sunday before that, and there's lots on my channel recorded. So but I won't go into like a little biography right now, just so that I can get on with some reading. But thank you for the question. Robertson Davies. Yeah, good suggestion, Compop. And welcome as well. Let me just give that a quick search. I always really appreciate recommendations. And like I always say, like if you can leave them in a regular comment, like not just in the chat, as an actual comment on the video, I appreciate that, because it's just so much easier for me to keep track of things. Yeah, I've not read any of these by Robert St. Davies. I feel like I've heard the name. This will probably be copyrighted, I guess. He only died in 1995. But I'll have a little read about him, though, at the very least. And welcome to Barbaria as well. Thank you for joining. I think you were chatting about Tim Curry. Yeah. Philip K. Dick, not sure. Also, we'll have to look that up, Katie. But yeah, like I said, leave me a comment, or even send me an email if you want. I always have my email address in the video description, so you can send recommendations my way. Thank you, and welcome to Infectious Legume as well. Very nice to see you. A very active Discord member. Always good for some chat and general knowledge. Nutcracker and the Mouse King. Yeah, it makes sense, the name with the Mouse King. and it's E.T.A. Hoffman. Just having a quick look. I feel like I've looked this up in the past and I've just blanked on it. So it was written 1816. It's a great suggestion, that. That's a great suggestion. Yeah, I won't do that today, but with it being very much Christmas themed, I will look to give the Nutcracker a whirl for Christmas, I think. I think that's a fantastic recommendation, guys. Yeah, thanks for that. I don't think I would have considered that, to be honest. The Witcher series, that's one that's been mentioned a lot, but it's another quite modern book, isn't it? So it will be copyright protected, unfortunately. So, like, if you're ever curious, there are certain websites that are purely focused on public domain books, so books that are no longer protected by copyright. So Project Gutenberg is one of them, for example, and they have endless lists of classic stories that are available for anybody to share online or narrate or whatever. So, of course, it feels like we're very restricted because we can't read so many of these modern classics and favorites from the 50s, 60s, 70s onwards and things. But there are still it's like endless how many incredibly famous and often underrated books are available for us to read. So we shouldn't feel too bad about it. Are you asking me about Among Us? I've been talking about doing more video game streaming. You know, I've been doing a little bit here and there. And Among Us, honestly, of course I would give it a go. Why not? Like, I know it's absolutely blown up from nowhere. You know, it had a pretty quiet release, and then as soon as a few famous Twitch streamers got their teeth into it, it's obviously like absolutely blown up. You know, I'm a big fan of Charlie, Critical, Penguin Zero. And I've watched a lot of his videos on Among Us, and you know, it looks like good fun. I think particularly if you're in a group of friends, it looks like a lot of fun. But I've not tried it yet. Likewise with the Ghost game that I can't remember the name of. It's a pretty crazy name. I wonder if anybody else has got an idea on that one. Barbaria. It can't be 1984. It must be something a little bit more peculiar, I think. But there's some real connoisseurs of literature among us here, so I'm sure someone will be able to have a bash at that one. I know you would volunteer, Shannon, for the Zoom call reading. I'll try my best to get that organised, because I know there's been mixed feelings, and I totally understand that, but you know, I ran a poll on it a few weeks ago, and I think it was like 65% of you or something said that you were keen for the idea. And at the end of the day, the plan was to make that the monthly private live stream that I've been suggesting for channel members and patrons. So as long as a lot of you that are members and patrons of mine over on Patreon, as long as you guys are up for it, I guess that's the most important thing at the end of the day. It doesn't have to be everybody's cup of tea. Nothing can be everybody's cup of tea. And no, I definitely don't just read children's stories. I've read all sorts of stuff come pop. Yeah, I mean, Dracula is like my most popular thing at the moment. So definitely not a children's story. Yeah, that's just one of those eternal questions, Jasmine. It was exactly the same with Harry Potter and other stuff. Yeah, I wish I could just get permission to read it, Jacob. I wish life was that simple, but sadly it's not. The Tolkien estate is incredibly protective. Likewise with Harry Potter and Pottermore and Penguin Random House and HarperCollins. Like, they're incredibly protective over their empire. So it's not as simple as that. I really wish it was. And of course I have asked. Of course. Yeah, I mentioned Project Gutenberg earlier, Frost. It's a great resource. It's a great resource, definitely. But no, Lord of the Rings, I have been officially banned from touching anything to do with Lord of the Rings or Tolkien. So Hobbit, Silmarillion, and I asked the Tolkien estate representative if I could even just share some of my songs with the original melodies that I'd made for them and everything, the poems and songs. No, absolutely not. So it doesn't matter where I share it. It doesn't matter. Like, it's a no-go. It's an absolute no-go, unfortunately. I know it's an absolute heartbreaker. I was flipping loving creating Lord of the Rings, so honestly, believe me, I feel it as much as any of you out there. I really do. I'm not gonna lie. But no, there are no Lord of the Rings versions on YouTube that are licensed. None of them. So it's there's only the official audiobooks, and that's it. They do not sell or provide licenses for anyone. They've got incredibly specific regulations there, apparently. So yeah, it's a bummer. It's a bummer. It really is. But yeah, like we've said many times, there are so many wonderful things out there. So yeah. But yeah, HP Lovecraft, all good, for sure. And like I said, I have shared my reading of The Color Out of Space, HP Lovecraft's. Technically, I think that was his first. Was that his first published story? I think one of his very first, anyway, if not his first. And his personal favorite, I believe. So I was really drawn to that one, and I really, really enjoyed it. So do give that a listen in that whole audiobook soundscape style that I presented it in. Oh, and very welcome to Caitlin Quinn as well. Very nice to see you. Yeah, we're doing all right here. We've just been having a very long chat. Nice to see you. Yeah, it's so true that though, Faye. Like, you've mentioned that a couple of times, that there are a lot of buried and underrated public domain books as well. And I've got to say, like, for me, it's a lot of fun bringing life to these old stories as well. Yes, I've had a lot of fun with Narnia, Harry Potter, and The Hobbit, and Lord of the Rings. And I've even read some of Ender's Game and Jurassic Park and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and a bunch of other things. But The Secret Garden and Dracula and the H.P. Lovecraft and Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and other things. It's really, really fun as well. Sort of like almost like rediscovering these so well-known stories and trying to breathe fresh life into them, and just really like tucking into it, giving them my own interpretation, and you really do appreciate these classics on a different level when you spend so much time with them as you do when you're producing an audiobook for them. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. Very difficult though, I'm not gonna lie. Especially with the old English and a very different style a lot of the time, of course, to more modern literature. So you have to bend your head around it and do your best with it. Ah, that's fantastic, Jasmine. You see, there you go. Very nice to hear that you were not sure about Dracula and you gave it a go, and there you go. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's a solid book for sure. Yeah, so C.S. Lewis is in the public domain in Canada, but not in the UK or in the United States, I believe. So I thought that that would be okay. Originally, I'd got it in my head that when I started reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, I had got it in my head that that was public domain. I think because I'd seen an article mentioning that it had gone into the public domain, but it was just for Canada. And even then, I was sort of hoping that, I'm sharing it internationally on this worldwide platform, that there'd be some sort of loophole there. But no, apparently not. Yeah. Oh, who did you contact, Claire? Did you contact the Tolkien estate? I missed. I think I might have missed something there. I just saw you saying that they were awful. Yeah, I don't know that one either. I feel so ignorant sometimes. Babari was saying Philip. Is it Philip Jose Farmer? River World or World of Tears? I'm wondering if this is another quite modern one. Philip Jose Farmer. I don't think I know that name. I mean, to be fair, there are a lot of authors out there. So he died 2009. Yeah, so this is another copyright protected one. As he only passed away quite recently. Yeah, I don't know these at all. So he's from the US. It's just fun to have recommendations though, like just stuff to read for my own pleasure as well. So thanks for that. Yeah, I welcome to Maria. I won't go into like what are my favorite books. I mean, I think you can get an idea sometimes from things that I've read in the past, even if I can't continue them with copyright and such. Fantastic Mr. Fox was technically the first ever book that I sat down and recorded before I tried The Hobbit. And I did do a redo of Fantastic Mr. Fox, which you can still access through my Patreon audio libraries, and that was a pleasure because that's just one of those books that always stuck with me. I must have read it as a very small child. I don't know how old I was when I first read it, but I mean, I read The Hobbit when I was 9, 10, and I'd already read most of Roald Dahl's books before then. And Fantastic Mr. Fox, definitely like BFG, Matilda, George's Marvelous Medicine, and the Twits, and Witches, and La La La, like James the Giant Peach, and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. They all these Roald Dahl books, they stuck with me, but Fantastic Mr. Fox particularly. So yeah, like there are I've many favorites, childhood favorites and adult fiction as well. But I'll just stay up to date with the chat, and then I can get reading very soon, as it's already getting late. Oh, and you're asking more questions, Caitlin. These are good questions. I'm gonna put these on ice for the time being. I have been talking a little bit about TV programs earlier, though, so you can always rewind, Caitlin. There's a little bit of chat there at the beginning of the stream. Ah, there you go, Olivia. Yeah, another converted Dracula fan. Peter Pan. Yeah, I think that's public domain, Mimi. I think so. Thanks, Frost. Yeah, so like I was mentioning earlier, of course I read that in a character voice because I was trying to create a certain ambiance uh, with the soundscape and everything. But glad to hear that you enjoyed The Colour Out of Space by H.P. Lovecraft. That was the first time I'd ever read it, first time I'd ever read any H.P. Lovecraft, even personally, you know, so that was a fun experience. Ah, thanks, Frost. Yeah, so you found me through The Secret Garden. An all-time favourite of many, that one. Absolutely wonderful. Yeah, there you go. And welcome to, is it Loverlay 79? You were saying that you collect books from the 1800s or anything pre 1910. I wonder why 1910 specifically. Maybe you can let me know. And yeah, so Green Fairy, Faye, she's said that many times as well, that there are just so many underrated, unknown authors. So, you know, of course, there are those authors and those books that are wildly famous, and they are often excellent books, excellent authors. But there must be so many underrated ones, you know, just authors that have sort of like fallen through the cracks. So, you know, for my YouTube channel, it sort of makes sense to read more famous public domain books, as there's a higher chance of views, I would imagine, and people actually listening to them. And sometimes if I share things that are a little bit more obscure, I do notice that less people, even my subscribers, are willing to engage with it, which is a bit frustrating sometimes. But, you know, people see a more famous story and often get drawn to that. It sort of makes sense. But I am quite curious and quite tempted to try and get stuck into things that are a little bit more niche or a little bit less known. So, you know, those recommendations are very welcome as well. And Beowulf is often recommended, Claire. So I feel like I really should give Beowulf a go. And definitely a subject and time period that I'm very interested in as well. So ancient history and medieval history, even modern history as well. Um, I've read quite a lot of and I'm very interested in. So Beowulf often recommended. I feel like I should definitely give that a go at some point. And I know you've been mentioning Dracula's Guest a lot, Green Fairy. That is one that's been on my radar for a long time as well. So yeah, does make sense. Yeah, I'm glad you were asking, Olivia, because I was curious about these obscure suggestions. Yeah, I'll definitely keep Peter Pan in mind. That's been on my radar for a couple of years, to be honest. Definitely keep that in mind. Oh, and there's a few suggestions by Loverlay. Thank you. And like I said, again, if you want to leave suggestions down in a regular YouTube comment, I really appreciate that because I feel like I'm gonna lose some of these. But I'll try to make sure to go back through the stream as well and see if I can pull some of these book suggestions out of the chat. Oh, right. Okay. So what? So a channel reposted my Lord of the Rings? Because I know there's been a channel that's had my Hobbit for a long time, and they've somehow managed to make the audio quality even worse. That's been on YouTube for a couple of years now, and channels have done this in the past with the Hobbit, and Harry Potter was a oh, we had good times with that. There was a lot of you that were trying to help me take down some of these Harry Potter channels that were sharing my Harry Potter books a couple of years ago. That was fun. But did someone actually re-upload my Lord of the Rings as well? That's really cheeky. I'm glad to hear it's gone. I'm not gonna lie. That's very silly. Cold Comfort Farm. Don't know. Don't know, Faye. Bored of the Rings. Paradise Lost. Yeah, one I'm familiar with, but I haven't read Infectious Legume. Oh, and welcome to Meg. Did I dye my hair? No, this is me. This is me. I've always been this sort of dirty blonde. In the summer, it gets blonder than this, but in the winter, it darkens a little bit. But I don't know if this is exactly authentic, the colouring on the live stream. I think it's about there. I've always been pretty blonde, like since I was a kid. Never dyed my hair, ever. Probably won't start. Tarzan, yeah, that could work as well, for sure. Ah, and welcome to Miss. Not going to try and pronounce that, but really nice to hear that you've enjoyed Animal Farm. I really feel like, I think I've mentioned this before, but I really feel like my Animal Farm audiobook is one of my more underrated audiobooks that I've made. So if you haven't listened to my Animal Farm, go give it a go. It's not a long one. I really enjoyed making that. That was the first time that I actually created a whole audiobook for you guys. I'm not talking about like things for Audible or whatever. But the first time I'd made a complete audiobook, didn't mention it, and just shared it. And a lot of you have really enjoyed that, and some people have even found my channel through Animal Farm and have mentioned that, which is really lovely. But still, I feel like it's an underrated one. I really enjoyed it. And I know it's a heavy story, and it's been a very heavy year, so I think maybe my timing of sharing it wasn't the best. But it's so well written. I really like George Orwell's work. You know, I'm a big fan of 1984 and a couple of other things as well. So, yeah, thanks for the compliment on that one. I appreciate that. I really enjoyed making Animal Farm. I had good fun with the voices, and I played around with a bit of a sort of like a bit of a quirky narrator's voice, like a little bit playful. You know, it's satirical, of course. So, I wanted it to be sort of as relaxing as it could be, with having quite dark themes, and a little bit playful, because there are comedic touches there in Animal Farm. So, I wanted to try and play with that a little bit, and I gave it this whole sort of raw reading style. You know, I'm actually reading from the book, so you hear the pages turning and everything. I left all that in. I didn't edit any of those out. So, you know, I think if you enjoyed The Secret Garden and Dracula, 1984, I mean, of course, then I really recommend Animal Farm. Yeah. Yeah, I guessed you were from Korea, Miss. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, I think I've actually caught up, Shannon. I think I've actually caught up. It's been lovely to chat with you, though. Seriously, like I'm not going anywhere. I wasn't feeling too well today. I was feeling quite tired. A next door neighbour's alarm clock has been going off at 7 in the morning, and it seems like they're away or something, because it's basically been beeping, and these walls are not thin. Like it's a new built apartment, this, and pretty well constructed. But 7 in the morning, for 1 hour, the alarm clock next door or above or something, I think it's next door, has been going off. Just a nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. Saturday morning, Sunday morning. So I think that might have factored into it slightly. But I was just feeling quite tired and lethargic today. or this evening particularly, and I was just like feeling just a bit flat, and I was like, but I really did want to stream today, and I know I'd not like officially announced it on YouTube, or I'd not scheduled anything or whatever, but I'd been mentioning it a little bit on Discord, and there was a few of you asking if I was going to stream this week and everything, and I was like, yeah, I do want to, so I'll just stick with the plan. But yeah, I was tired. I was really tired. But I'm very glad that I just sorted myself out and got online, because it, like, I know a lot of people that join the stream, they're hoping to just listen to me read something, and I some streams I read for maybe like an hour and a half or more, and read 2 or 3 stories, and sometimes like very, very long chapters of things. And then some streams, I might only read one thing, and it might only be 15 minutes long, and we chat the rest of the time. And, but some people really appreciate chatting, and I think I think it's really nice, to be fair. It's like, it's very refreshing for me. I do a lot of narration, obviously, and I spend a lot of time editing and things, so I really, really enjoy catching up with you and chatting and stuff, and getting to know you. I mean, some of you I've been chatting with in live streams for over 2 years now, on and off, and we chat on Discord, we chat on Patreon, we talk in emails and in the YouTube comments and other things, so it's just like a lovely little community, and it means a lot to me. And at the end of the day, like I think Shannon was saying, I always save my live streams. Or maybe you were talking about Prince, and that I'll be posting Prince. Yeah, but all my live streams get saved. You can just watch them back. And Shannon's been helping me with this in the past as well, but I try to always make sure there's a timestamp for the reading, and maybe if there's something else of interest or whatever. And then you can always just skip ahead, just skip the chat, skip to the reading, enjoy the reading if you're not wanting the chat. But for those of you that like to have a little bit of a catch up and have this sort of community feeling, then you've got the best of both worlds, I think. But yeah, you were just on about to marry a prince. So Claire was asking. So I did read Prince a few weeks ago. Make sure you didn't miss that one, Claire. But because it is a long book, it was a longer book than I sort of expected. It sounds a bit silly. Like I could have just made sure I was fully aware of the whole package and everything. But it was a longer book than I expected. And because there's been certain times where I've not been streaming, it's meant that whole production has got very, 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 very spread out. And there's new people joining my channel all the time, and I just wanted to keep these live streams more relevant for people just dropping in and dropping out. So say you miss a few streams, but you pop into this one, you're going to be able to listen to a whole story or a whole fairy tale, and just keep things a little bit more confined within the stream itself. So the plan, like Shannon was saying, was that I'll read the rest of Prince privately as a standard recording, and edit it a little bit, nothing too meticulous, and then I will share that as a part 3 and a part 4 as regular videos. So that was the plan, and then I can just focus on different bits and bobs for the live stream. And thank you, Jasmine. I'm glad you're enjoying the live streams. Yeah, that was what I was mentioning on Discord, the Tamara Prince. Thank you for the explainer, Shannon. I appreciate that. And thanks to Loaded Diaper. Very interesting name you've got yourself there. Oh, did Lynette mention that? But I will finish it. I promise. I don't want to get into trouble. Okay, okay, okay. I am caught up. Yeah, I know it's true, Lynette. It's true. Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, for example, and I guess you could say with Narnia and and Jurassic Park and other things as well. So, yeah, I mean, like the good thing about Harry Potter and the Lord of the Rings, for example, is at least I was able to finish those particular books that I was reading. So, um, okay, so like I read all of the Fellowship, like book one and book two, and yes, we got cut off in book three, Two Towers, but at least we had some finished books, even if the whole series wasn't finished. And likewise with Harry Potter, we enjoyed Philosopher's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner of Azkaban, and we got stopped doing Goblet of Fire, which was gutting. I was so enjoying Goblet of Fire. I'd got so into it, and um my whole like production style or whatever was getting more and more tuned the more and more practice I had with Harry Potter and just with narration and audiobook production and stuff in general. So I was feeling like I was like really starting to like polish my presentation of Harry Potter as well. And then like boom, uh, good night, sweetheart, and that was it. Um, but we had good fun. We had good fun while it lasted. You're chatting hair. Yeah, I know. I've got to respect copyright at the end of the day. Like, love it or hate it, you've got to respect it. It's the system we have. So, and there are obviously benefits of copyright as well. Don't get me wrong, but that's I've got mixed feelings. Let's say that. Folk tales from over the world. Yeah, absolutely. Like we don't just have to read Brothers Grimm, of course, Lynette. Yeah. Okay, but I'm gonna put the question out now. Oh, and good night to Madeline. Thanks so much for joining. Very nice to see you, Madeline. Yeah, I know. I was so enjoying doing like little random Lord of the Rings songs in the live streams as well. I know. Yeah, I know. I know. Um, but look, let's. Um, I can do Jasmine. I mean, I really enjoyed the poetry that was in the Lord of the Rings, and I did study English literature at high school. You would call it like college for me. So I read a lot of poetry back in school. I've not read a lot of poetry since I was about 18. To be fair, little bits here and there, but um, I mean, I could certainly take suggestions. I was really tempted to jump into a bit of like Shakespeare or poetry a while ago. There was a few suggestions a couple of years ago, maybe 18 months ago, but um, for me, myself, Meg, I'm honestly not sure on that one. Like my favorite underrated book, I would really have to give that some thought. Yeah, I'm really not sure. Um, I really enjoyed the Redwall series as a kid, and I know they're relatively famous, but I feel like um, I was very surprised that the Redwall series didn't get turned into a TV series or a film or something like that. Um, Similar sort of stuff has, um, but Redwall, to my knowledge, hasn't, and I loved those books as a kid. Um, mm, yeah, I'm not sure. It's too big a question. It's too big a question for right now. Yeah, I could. I wrote a little sonnet once. That was fun. I did like, yeah, I've had little times where I've played around with poetry here and there, but not for a long time, I must say. But look, I'm gonna get stuck into a Grimm's fairy tale, have a little bit of reading, but I have to ask you which you would like to hear. So maybe I should give you a shortened list and you can drop a suggestion in the chat. So I'll read out some of the more famous ones that we haven't read so far. So we've read Cinderella. We've read we've only had Cinderella, Rumpelstiltskin and Snow White. I was going to say we've had Hansel and Gretel, but it wasn't the version I was looking for. So I think that's still in the mix. So there's Rapunzel, Hansel and Gretel, there's Red Riding Hood, which I think is Little Red Cap. There's a lot here, by the way. I'm just skimming through and picking out a few of the more famous ones. There should be Sleeping Beauty as well. I think it's got a different name. Is it Rose Red or something like that? I'm sure I saw it. No, it's not Snow White and Rose Red. I'd have to look it up, but I think Sleeping Beauty is in there as well. But yeah, I think I named the more famous ones that we haven't read. Rapunzel, Hansel and Gretel, Little Red Riding Hood. Yeah. Yeah. What do we think? Oh, someone's mentioning Tennyson. Yeah, maybe I should give some poetry a go. I don't know if I'm any good at reading poetry, to be fair. I really haven't practiced, like I said, since I was 17, 18. Yeah. Let's have a vote for the Brothers Grimm. I would like to know what you think. Little Mermaid. Yeah, that's Hans Christian Andersen, actually, I think, Meg. There's the Little Mermaid statue in Copenhagen. But Hansel and Gretel, absolutely. So we've 2 votes for that. We've 2 votes for Rapunzel. And we've 1 vote for Sleeping Beauty at the moment. So I'll give you another like 30 seconds or so to throw in some votes, and we'll see what wins. Hansel and Gretel, Rapunzel. Like I said, Little Mermaid, I'm pretty sure is Hans Christian Andersen, so I'll stick to the Brothers Grimm for today. But Hans Christian Andersen, I can definitely read that another time, for sure. Don't you worry, Meg. Don't you worry. Oh, and welcome to Picky Mickey as well. Thank you for joining. No, you can't vote multiple times, Shannon. We've crossed this bridge. Lynette's mentioning the mouse, the bird, and the sausage. Is that definitely by the Grimm brothers then? I have never heard of this. I'm just gonna have to check Discord now. If you've mentioned that you've sent it to me here. Where did you put it? Book club. Yeah. Oh yeah, it is in the Grimm compilation that you've got. I'm curious. The mouse, the bird, and the sausage, number 23. Here. Oh, it's tiny. It's tiny. Oh, I mean, I can read this first just for fun. I mean, it's like, it's so small. It's so small. I can happily read the mouse, the bird, and the sausage first. Lightweaver's going for Red Riding Hood. First vote for Red Riding Hood. So is Rapunzel winning? 5 for Rapunzel. It's looking like Rapunzel. I really appreciate you helping me to keep count, by the way. I really appreciate that. Yeah, true, Shannon. Oh, okay. And thanks for the vote as well, Elisif. Rapunzel is definitely leading the way. Okay, this one is incredibly short. It's like so short that I feel like I don't even need to change the information on the screen here, but I want to just to make it a little bit easier to find as well in the recorded stream. I think it will get too long for the screen though, this. I can't see the screen, by the way, so if it's already gone off the edge, I apologise. It's a great story name. Oh, it does, yeah, sort of fits. I'll just leave it like that. It's okay. Okay, so the mouse, the bird, and the sausage, which is apparently one of the Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm fairy tales. It's not in either of these versions that I've got, I'm pretty sure, but I'm down for it. Definitely. Any stories about snakes? A snake did feature in, because there was these Christian themes in something. Was that? I can't remember if that was in Snow White or in Rumpelstiltskin. I'm sure a snake has featured. Okay, so this is a real short one. This is a real short one, and I've never read this, so let's see what happens with these birds and mice and sausages. The Mouse, the Bird, and the Sausage by Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm. Once upon a time, a mouse, a bird, and a sausage formed a partnership. They kept house together, and for a long time they lived in peace and prosperity, acquiring many possessions. The bird's task was to fly into the forest every day to fetch wood. The mouse carried water, made the fire, and set the table. The sausage did the cooking. Whoever is too well off always wants to try something different. Thus, one day, the bird chanced to meet another bird, who boasted to him of his own situation. This bird criticized him for working so hard, while the other two enjoyed themselves at home. For after the mouse had made the fire and carried the water, she could sit in the parlour and rest until it was time for her to set the table. The sausage had only to stay by the pot, watching the food cook. When mealtime approached, she would slither through the porridge or the vegetables, and thus everything was greased and salted and ready to eat. The bird would bring his load of wood home. They would eat their meal and then sleep soundly until the next morning. It was a great life. The next day, because of his friend's advice, the bird refused to go to the forest, saying that he had been their servant long enough. He was no longer going to be a fool for them. Everyone should try a different task for a change. The mouse and the sausage argued against this, but the bird was the master, and he insisted that they give it a try. The sausage was to fetch wood, the mouse became the cook, and the bird was to carry water. And what was the result? The sausage trudged off toward the forest. The bird made the fire, and the mouse put on the pot and waited for the sausage to return with wood for the next day. However, the sausage stayed out so long that the other two feared that something bad had happened. The bird flew off to see if he could find her. A short distance away, he came upon a dog that had seized the sausage as free booty and was making off with her. The bird complained bitterly to the dog about this brazen abduction, but he claimed that he had discovered forged letters on the sausage, and that she would thus have to forfeit her life to him. Filled with sorrow, the bird carried the wood home himself and told the mouse what he had seen and heard. They were very sad, but were determined to stay together and make the best of it. The bird set the table while the mouse prepared the food. She jumped into the pot. As the sausage had always done, in order to slither and weave in and out about the vegetables and grease them. But before she reached the middle, her hair and skin were scalded off, and she perished. When the bird wanted to eat, no cook was there. Beside himself, he threw the wood this way and that, called out, looked everywhere, but no cook was to be found. Because of his carelessness, the scattered wood caught fire, and the entire house was soon aflame. The bird rushed to fetch water, but the bucket fell into the well, carrying him with it, and he drowned. What a sad little story. So, what's the moral of this fairy tale then? Know your place. Don't be greedy. It sounds like some sort of like pro-class, pro-capitalism sort of vibe here. Like, don't get above your station. Know your job in life, or everything will go disastrously. I mean, you could see it a little bit more positively, perhaps, and say, sort of like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and, you know, sort of like, be content with the status quo. Yeah. Maybe that everybody's got something that they're particularly gifted at. Yeah, do what you're fitted for. And welcome, Rachel, by the way. I don't think I'd said hello to you earlier. I'm not sure. If you've got a second hello, then bonus. But that was a very interesting little tale, I've got to say. Yeah, it wasn't the title, Shannon. It was the first line. It was just the first line of the story. Once upon a time, a mouse, a bird, and a sausage formed a partnership. I was just like, all right, here we go. And I love that the sausage is a girl as well, or a woman. Like, it's a gendered sausage as well. So the bird was a boy, apparently. I think that was a he. Interesting that these that there has to be genders involved there as well. It's got to be a female sausage doing the cooking, of course. Oh dear. Mama Fox says it's a horror story. They nearly always are, these, aren't they, to be fair? They're pretty creepy. Jasmine and Meg, you're devastated. I know. Stephanie just says, wow. It was horrible. Was it the bird that got frazzled in the pot? Goodness me. Okay, so Frost says everyone should work to his strengths. Yeah, that's fair enough. Then you'll be the most efficient you can be. And welcome to Shay as well. Welcome. Thank you for joining. It was a roller coaster. Like, everything seemed to be going so well, and then yeah, sorry, but the sausage has been taken off by the dog. The bird gets stripped of its skin and boiled in the pot, and then the mouse drowns itself. Absolutely tragic. This was such a strange bit with the dog as well. The bird complained bitterly to the dog about this brazen abduction, but he claimed that he had discovered forged letters on the sausage's person, so to speak, and that she would thus have to forfeit her life to him. Like, what kind of nonsense was that? I mean, the dog just wanted to eat the sausage, and he just came up with some mind-boggling excuse to do it, and the bird just said, well, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, those... I mean, how was the sausage carrying these forged documents? Do sausages have pockets? Or a blazer or something? It sounds suspicious. I'm not gonna lie. Oh, is that what they've done, Frost? Right, that makes sense. Like with the female and male aspects to the language. That's interesting. That's great. Yeah, it would be the same with French, wouldn't it? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's great. Oh, was it the mouse that got cooked and the bird and right and the bird that drowned? I'll take your word for it, Shannon. Whew. Yeah, I wondered if there was going to be some sort of rock paper scissors situation with the three companions, and that it was going to suggest that that they were sort of like a dangerous partnership. Yeah, I know. It's like it went downhill so quickly. It really did. It's like yeah, so you've just got this very curious friendship between these three unlikely companions, and then you know, ip dip do, out goes you, off goes the sausage, and wham bam, thank you very much. The other two died just a few moments later. It was straight downhill, a slippery slope. Yeah, I know. I don't get that. I don't think the sausage had hands. It is a bit of a fish footman situation. Yeah, from Alice in Wonderland, definitely. Was that whether it had legs or not? I think we were discussing. That was a couple of years ago then. Oh, and thank you for the new subscriber that's just popped up as well. Yeah, because I'm guessing the sausage didn't have limbs, because the sausage wasn't described as like swimming through the pot or whatever. It just jumped in, greased and salted, and then managed to wriggle its way back out again. Oh, and hello to Holly. Welcome. You've missed about 1 hour 55 minutes of chat, and then about 5 minutes of sausage reading. That's the book club so far. Crazy. Yeah, they really like the sausages in Germany, so I'm not surprised that they've got a fully animated, personified sausage in their tales. You know, and these were apparently gathered from the fine German people as well, so must have been a favourite among the farmsteads. Okay, and so I'm guessing Rapunzel won the vote. If anybody can confirm, I do appreciate it. I'm firing it up. And I've not read Rapunzel, by the way. So I'm just going to be going into this completely cold. I did pre-read Rumpelstiltskin and Snow White. Oh no, I didn't finish Snow White. I skimmed Snow White, but I'd not finished it. But Rumpelstiltskin I'd actually read through. But Rapunzel, I've never read this. So it's totally fresh. So I'll probably just keep it quite simple and just enjoy the madness. Rapunzel for the win. Indeed. You're putting a H in there, but I don't. Maybe that is a spelling, but I'll spell it as it is here. Hopefully it's correct. Rapunzel. Yeah. Let's read Rapunzel. What do we have here? There was once a man and a woman. Okay, I hope this is a good one. We know roughly what's going to go down, but I've never read this specific telling, so I'm excited. Uh-oh. Is that the case? Lynette? Okay. Oh, Rapunzel. Yeah, okay. Rapunzel. Okay. We're set up. There will be no German accents. I promise. Yeah, I know, you seriously do, Faye. I mean, to be fair, in Roald Dahl's defense in The Witches, he does sort of joke about that. And that they're not actually women, they're just these evil beings dressed as women. Sort of like wearing female skin sort of thing. But and he does mention there are like nasty male-looking monsters too, but the witches are the most dangerous. Ah, hello, Mariel, and thank you so much. Lovely to hear of another Secret Garden fan. Never get tired of hearing that. Thank you very much, Mariel. Okay, I'll get stuck in. I'll keep it quite relaxing, I think, until people's heads start getting chopped off and things drowning and monsters coming out of the ground. They often start really lightly and almost a little bit humorously, and then it's like, you turn a page, everybody's dead. Okay, so we're going to have Hansel and Gretel, aren't we, Shannon? I totally understand where you're coming from there. Okay, so this is Rapunzel from the Brothers Grimm fairy tales. There was once a man and a woman who had long in vain wished for a child. At length, the woman hoped that God was about to grant her desire. These people had a little window at the back of their house from which a splendid garden could be seen. It was full of the most beautiful flowers and herbs. It was, however, surrounded by a high wall, and no one dared to go into it because it belonged to a witch, who had great power and was dreaded by all the world. One day, The woman was standing by this window and looking down into the garden, when she saw a bed which was planted with the most beautiful rampion, Rapunzel, and it looked so fresh and green that she longed for it, and had the greatest desire to eat some. This desire increased every day, and as she knew that she could not get any of it, she quite pined away, and looked pale and miserable. Then her husband was alarmed, and asked, "What ails you, dear wife?" "Ah," she replied, "if I can't get some of the rampion to eat, which is in the garden behind our house, I shall die." The man, who loved her, thought, "Sooner than let your wife die, bring her some of the rampion yourself. Let it cost you what it will." In the twilight of evening, he clambered over the wall into the garden of the witch, hastily clutched a handful of rampion, and took it to his wife. She at once made herself a salad of it, and ate it with much relish. She, however, liked it so much, so very much, that the next day she longed for it 3 times as much as before. If he was to have any rest, her husband must once more descend into the garden. In the gloom of evening, therefore, he let himself down again. But when he had clambered down the wall, he was terribly afraid, for he saw the witch standing before him. "How dare you," said she with angry look, "descend into my garden and steal my rampion like a thief? You shall suffer for it." "Ah," answered he, "let mercy take the place of justice. I had to do it out of necessity. My wife saw your rampion from the window and felt such a longing for it that she would have died if she had not got some to eat." Then the witch let her anger be softened, and said to him, "If the case may be as you say, I will allow you to take away with you as much rampion as you will. Only I make one condition. You must give me the child which your wife will bring into the world. It shall be well treated, and I will care for it like a mother." The man in his terror consented to everything, and when the woman at last had a little daughter, the witch appeared at once, gave the child the name of Rapunzel, and took it away with her. Rapunzel grew into the most beautiful child beneath the sun. When she was 12 years old, the witch shut her into a tower which lay in a forest, and had neither stairs nor door. But quite at the top was a little window. When the witch wanted to go in, she placed herself beneath this and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down thy hair." Rapunzel had magnificent long hair, fine as spun gold, and when she heard the voice of the witch, she unfastened her braided tresses and wound them round one of the hooks of the window above. And then the hair fell 20 ells down, and the witch climbed up by it. After a year or 2, it came to pass that the king's son rode through the forest and went by the tower. Then he heard a song, which was so charming that he stood still and listened. This was Rapunzel, who in her solitude passed her time in letting her sweet voice resound. The king's son wanted to climb up to her, and looked for the door of the tower, but none was to be found. He rode home, but the singing had so deeply touched his heart that every day he went out into the forest and listened to it. Once, when he was thus standing behind a tree, he saw that a witch came there, and he heard how she cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down thy hair." Then Rapunzel let down the braids of her hair, and the witch climbed up to her. "If that is the ladder by which one mounts, I will for once try my fortune," said he. The next day, when it began to grow dark, he went to the tower and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down thy hair." Immediately the hair fell down, and the king's son climbed up. At first, Rapunzel was terribly frightened when a man, such as her eyes had never yet beheld, came to her. But the king's son began to talk to her quite like a friend, and told her that his heart had been so stirred that it had let him have no rest, so he had been forced to see her. Then Rapunzel lost her fear, and when he asked her if she would take him for her husband, and she saw that he was young and handsome, she thought, "He will love me more than old Dame Gothel does." And she said yes, and laid her hand in his. She said also, "I will willingly go away with you, but I do not know how to get down. Bring with you a skin of silk every time that you come, and I will weave a ladder with it. When that is ready, I will descend, and you will take me on your horse." They agreed that until that time he should come to her every evening, for the old woman came by day. The witch remarked nothing of this, until once Rapunzel said to her, "Tell me, Dame Gothel, how it happens that you are so much heavier for me to draw up than the young king's son. He is with me in a moment."
"Ah, you wicked child!" cried the witch. "What do I hear you say? I thought I had separated you from all the world, and yet you have deceived me."
In her anger, she clutched Rapunzel's beautiful tresses, wrapped them twice round her left hand, seized a pair of scissors with the right, and snip-snap! They were cut off, and the lovely braids lay on the ground. And she was so pitiless that she took poor Rapunzel into a desert, where she had to live in great grief and misery. On the same day, however, that she cast out Rapunzel, the witch, in the evening, fastened the braids of hair which she had cut off to the hook of the window, and when the king's son came and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down thy hair, let down thy hair," she let the hair down. The king's son ascended. He did not find his dearest Rapunzel above, but the witch, who gazed at him with wicked and venomous looks. "Ah, ha, 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 ha," she cried mockingly. "You would fetch your dearest, but the beautiful bird sits no longer singing in the nest. The cat has got it, and will scratch out your eyes as well. Rapunzel is lost to you. You will never see her more." The king's son was beside himself with grief, and in his despair he leapt down from the tower. He escaped with his life, but the thorns into which he fell pierced his eyes. Then he wandered quite blind about the forest, ate nothing but roots and berries, and did nothing but lament and weep over the loss of his dearest wife. Thus he roamed about in misery for some years, and at length came to the desert where Rapunzel lived in wretchedness. He heard a voice, and it seemed so familiar to him that he went toward it. When he approached, Rapunzel knew him, and fell on his neck and wept. 2 of her tears wetted his eyes, and they grew clear again, and he could see with them as before. He led her to his kingdom, where he was joyfully received, and they lived for a long time, happy and contented. Happy ending. 2 thumbs up. There you go. Another roller coaster ride. Unexpected twist there, I think. The beautiful Rapunzel's tears. This is like Pokemon, like the first Pokemon movie. Rapunzel's tears heal the prince's eyes. No worries. No need for advanced medicine whatsoever. He can see again. She's happy, madly in love. Lived happily ever after. Job done. I want to know what happened to the witch, though. What happened to the witch? I feel like we've not heard the last of her. I mean, she seems to feature in every one of these stories almost. There isn't a witch in Rumpelstiltskin, right? But there's nearly always a beautiful princess, even if she's low-born, as they would say in the olden days. There's always going to be a handsome prince, obviously. He wants to marry her. She says yes. It's that simple. Even if you get thorns in your eyeballs, like Faye says, it sounded rough, but, you know, like Pokemon, love will get you through. It's often as simple as that. But I really feel like the witch could be plotting some evil trick here. I mean, maybe she's just laying low, waiting to develop some scheme, laying in ambush or something. I want to know. Maybe she's got a mirror on the wall. Maybe she's got some tricks up her sleeve. I don't know. Moral of the story. Yeah, moral of the story. It's just classic love at first sight, isn't it? Not that that's a moral, but it's so simple in these fairy tales. I love it. I love it. It's another one of these as well, where a child is basically taken hostage by the sort of evil or antagonistic character. You know, similar situation with Rumpelstiltskin. So it's like another one of these where it seems like greed. You know, if you think of like when these were written and when these or like when these folk tales will have been developed during the feudal system, really, it feels like there is that happy ever after tale to be had, but there's also, I think, often a suggestion of don't get too big for your boots. You know, they don't want the peasants to be aspiring too highly, I think, because like whenever someone makes a false promise that's generally gonna maybe bring them more happiness or power or something along those lines, like they're desiring something that maybe they shouldn't have, then thorns end up in eyeballs, or their daughter gets taken hostage by the king or whatever. Yeah, definitely don't fall into thorn bushes unless you've got a beautiful princess waiting for you in the desert, and then she can cry them better. Yeah, that was a slip of the tongue, wasn't it, that? Oh, by the way, most evil witch in the world that's kept me hostage since I was born. Oh no, like since she was... No, it was, yeah, since she was born, right? Yeah, since she was born. She's been living... Like, she must be so wasted. Like, I mean, does she just pace round and round this tower? I mean, I hope she's got a treadmill or something at least, or like a pull-up bar or something. Like, she's gonna be so scrawny, and it's like she's just got a small window. Like, does she get some sunlight at least? She must do. Like, in some productions, they have her sort of leaning out of the window, don't they, and like singing into the forest or whatever. I feel like she'd be in poor condition, but yeah, she's just like, oh, by the way, most evil witch in all of the world, um, why are you so fat? Like, why are you so heavy? What's going on? Is that because I mean, like, is this like a curse or something? Like some heaviness curse or something? I mean, what's going on? You know, because my lover, like the prince, like he just straight up, no worries. Yeah, that got them into a real... I was really hoping that the prince was gonna climb up and um maybe actually like duel the witch or something, and just take the witch out in mortal combat, but nope. He was out of there. He didn't even put up a fight, did he? He just literally bailed out the window. Terrible, really. Not the most chivalrous, noble prince. You know, it wasn't really a knight in shining armor coming to the rescue. But the witch remains at large, and that concerns me. Yeah, she does have phoenix tears, Olivia. I just saw that. Like Forks. Yeah, maybe she does. Jasmine, you were saying she just grows more rampion, more of this Rapunzel, and just waits till somebody else cannot quench their desire for the rampion plant. It must be delicious, that stuff. I mean, I'm scared to try it, but you were on about the sausage. What if Grimm brothers just got drunk and had a vision of a living sausage and that's it? It does sound like some trip, doesn't it? Yeah, I guess that would work, Olivia, but what happens when she gets to the bottom? Would she just have to cut herself loose, I suppose? Because I mean, she must be able to bear the weight. If she can bear the weight of this guy climbing back down and the witch climbing back down, then she must be able to bear her own weight. She must be stick thin. I've got a feeling she's not well fed, and she certainly doesn't exercise. I mean, that could go both ways, but a nice story. A nice story. It was good fun. Oh, Meg. Yeah, maybe they weren't too concerned about vitamin D. It's a curse. Oh dear. I know. I'm sorry, Shannon. I instantly felt bad. I instantly felt bad about that. But that's the thing, like maybe she's like perfectly, like maybe she's like in the best shape of her life, but there's something, there's some weight because she's like carrying all this evil magic, you know, this like burden of darkness, that's what actually weighs heavy, like that Rapunzel can feel the weight of her sins. Maybe that's what it was. Oh, hello there, Nadia. I'm glad you've been enjoying it. Yeah, you've had a tough day. I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad this has helped, even if just a little bit. Some Professor Snape voice. I'm really rusty with my Snape, actually. I don't practice my Snape these days. Sometimes it comes out. Gollum comes out probably still the most, but I didn't even think about that. I think since COVID-19, the Gollum impersonations have dropped. There's some correlation between number of people infected by COVID-19 and the amount of times I do Gollum impressions. Maybe it's just like the world feels dark enough right now that you just don't need to have 3 or 4 simultaneous personalities. But I do very much enjoy some Severus Snape from time to time. Miss Kobayashi, I always want to try and calm down the classroom, but I think actually you've been surprisingly well behaved today. I certainly won't be handing out any house points to anyone, but perhaps I shouldn't have to take them away. Oh, thank you, Caroline. I'm glad you found this relaxing. That's sort of always my intention, to be fair. It's always part and parcel. I always forget that page number, though. Is it 184? Turn to page 184. I can't remember. I'm rubbish at those sorts of things. I used to be way better, I think, at like... I used to be able to memorize, like, almost word for word whole films, but to be fair, I used to repeat watch stuff much more than I do these days. I don't normally do that anymore. I feel like there's way too many quality films and TV and, you know, video games and books and conversations to be had. So as I think when I was a kid and a teenager, I used to rewatch stuff a lot more and memorize things much more. Is it 394? I'm getting a bit stiff. I've been sat here for 2.5 hours. Maybe I should take a quick stroll to the bathroom. You're helping me out as well, Claire. Yeah, I'll go to the potty. Lily found that very amusing last time, didn't she, when I said I need to go potty. But yeah, I'll just stretch my legs for a minute as I've been sat in the same place. I'm like Rapunzel. I've just been stuck in this tower for 2.5 hours. And then I will come back and I will try reading the first story in this Lovecraft compilation. And it's a really short one. It's only 6 pages long. And I've not read it. Like I said, I just skimmed it a little bit when I first got this book a few months ago. I got this book literally about a week before the whole Lord of the Rings takedown. Maybe like 10 days before it or something. Something like that. And I made the audiobook soundscape of The Colour Out of Space. And I'd planned to make a bunch more of those audiobook soundscapes, and then things got really messy, obviously, and it's just gone on the back burner for now. But I've got various ideas. Various ideas. But I thought it would be nice just to read the first one that appears in this compilation and see what you think. I was hoping it would say what year it was published. This particular short story, I mean. I was seeing if it was mentioned in the introduction. But you can look it up if you want. Here we are. 1917. Lovecraft wrote The Tomb and Dagon. And this first one is Dagon. Oh, so The Colour Out of Space, that wasn't... Oh, was it? I was going to say it wasn't his first, but I know it was his favourite, apparently. Can't just see it mentioned, no. But yeah, I'll just pop to the bathroom and stretch my legs. Yeah, the Wizard of Oz series, that's one that's been mentioned many times as well. Oh, but very nice to have you here, Victoria. Very nice to have you here. Thanks for joining. Oh, you're getting the Harry Potter house roll call going, I see. Yeah, you used to be one of the most mischievous ones, Shannon. You've really sobered up in recent times. It must be since you found love, Shannon. I think that's what it was. It's like a Brothers Grimm fairy tale. You find love, that's it. You live happily ever after. And welcome to Karen as well, by the way. I just read your message, but I didn't actually see that it was your name. So welcome to the stream as well. Thank you for joining. Oh, and thank you as well to Natural Tendencies. Thanks ever so much. That's very kind of you to say. Okay, so I'll be back in just a couple of minutes, and then we'll have a bit of HP Lovecraft. I can close my laptop for now, and I'll just change the name here. So at least if anybody joins, they see... Oops. They see the plan. And thank you to all of you that are still here in the stream. It's lovely to have you here. Okay. So it's called Dagon. If any of you have read it, I would love to know. Like I said, the most famous stories within this book would be the Call of Cthulhu, that has a huge following, and this whole Cthulhu mythos has a huge following. But that's a big one. The Colour Out of Space, of course. The Shadow over Innsmouth. And there's a couple of others as well that are quite well known. But I imagine that this Dagon one is a less known story. So I'm kind of curious. And it's the first in the book, so why not? Okay. Back soon. Back soon. Hello, hello, hello. Sorry, I was a little bit longer than planned. I was just saying goodnight to Maria. I was surprised she was still awake, actually, because it's 1 in the morning. How are we doing? You've been chatting a little bit. Thank you for waiting for me, by the way. Oh, that sounds cool, Faye. Professor McGonagall costume. Ah, very nice to have you here, Claire. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to have you in the chat. Take care. Alright, alright. You feel free to chat among yourselves. Don't let me disturb you. But we'll have a little bit of HP Lovecraft. I don't know if any of you have been watching Lovecraft Country. I did watch it. I wasn't sure about it at first. Didn't love the first episode, but generally I did enjoy it. Very little of it is actually based on anything to do with H.P. Lovecraft itself. It's more sort of this Lovecraftian style. There's some little tentative references to various famous works of fiction. The Count of Monte Cristo, Dracula gets a mention, a few others. But an interesting premise and sort of an interesting style as well. Very modern, quite progressive. But I was expecting Lovecraft Country to actually be based on Lovecraft, which it wasn't, so I was a little bit surprised by that. Silence, please, Shannon. No talking there at the back. Okay, so I hope you enjoy this. As I said again, just in case anybody new has popped into the stream, I haven't read Dagon, but it's the first little short story that features in H.P. Lovecraft, The Call of Cthulhu and Other Weird Stories. So this wasn't a compilation made by Lovecraft himself. This is posthumous. But this story was written in 1917, during the First World War, in fact. Ah, Lupin. I really got into my Professor Lupin voice as well. I sort of took the Aragorn voice from the Lupin voice. You know, it's not so dissimilar to my own, but it has these, I don't even know how you describe that, like these rounded vowels, a little bit gruff, a little bit softly spoken, but you've got this feeling that there's some sort of ferocity under the surface. Really enjoyed Professor Lupin, just in general. Like, such a lovely character. Really great, really great. Good times. Okay, so whether you enjoy this particular story or not, do go listen to my H.P. Lovecraft audiobook that I've got on my channel. The Colour Out of Space. Mucho recommendo. That would be my Harry Potter spell. Oh, don't even talk about that, Holly. Don't even talk about that. Oh, hello, Logan. You're just in time for a little bit of H.P. Lovecraft. Lucky you. Wake up from your little nap time, straight into a bit of live reading. Not bad. Oh, me too, Olivia. I'm a big fan of birds myself. Animals in general, but birds are awesome. They're so cool. So intelligent little guys. Yeah. Ugh. This has turned into a heavy conversation. This conversation that you're having now is like one of these Brothers Grimm stories. Starts so cheery, everybody's having a good time, and then Dobby's dead, Hedwig's dead, one of the twins is dead. Oh, not on. And I was already getting a little bit teary just thinking about Lupin. Goodness me. And oh dear, Sirius. Shocking. Okay. So, Dagon by HP Lovecraft. I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more. Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below. Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate. When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death. It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider. The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation, so that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners. So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat, with water and provisions for a good length of time. When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings. Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator. Of the longitude I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight. The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship, or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land. But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue. The change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know, for my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous. When at last I awaked, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished, for there was in the air and in the rotting soil a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid, with the carcasses of decaying fish, and of other less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain. Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing, and nothing in sight save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppress me with a nauseating fear. The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet. As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position. Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions which for innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths. So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me, that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, strain my ears as I might. Nor were there any sea-fowl to prey upon the dead things. For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens. As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness, and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for travelling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue. On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odour of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal. All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert. That night I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it. By the fourth evening I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance, an intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill. I know not why my dreams were so wild that night, but ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had arisen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again, and in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence. I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me, but I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine. I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined. Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of a few 100 feet, the declivity became very gradual. Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyse, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath, gazing into the Stygian deeps where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me. An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon. That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself, but I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature. A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express, for despite its enormous magnitude, and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith, whose massive bulk had known the workmanship, and perhaps the worship, of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely. The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm, and revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions, and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures. The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me, and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books, consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound. Plainly visible across the intervening water on account of their enormous size, were an array of bas-reliefs, whose subjects would have excited the envy of a Doré. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of man, though the creatures were shewn disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto, or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms, I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint. Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer, they were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips, glassy bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seemed to have been chiselled badly out of proportion with their scenic background, for one of the creatures was shewn in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself. I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe, some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born. Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing, whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then suddenly I saw it. With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters. Vast, polyphemus-like, and loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, the while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds. I think it went mad then. Oh, sorry. I think I went mad then. Of my frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little. I believe I sang a great deal, and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing. I have indistinct recollections of a great storm some time after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I had heard peals of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods. When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital, brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing, nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe. Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist, and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god. But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries. It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing. I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease, and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men. Often I ask myself if it could not all have been pure phantasm. A mere freak of fever, as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man-of-war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may, at this very moment, be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows, to drag down in their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. of a day when the land shall sink, and the dark ocean floor shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium. The end is near. I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense, slippery body lumbering against it. It shall not find me. God, that hand! The window! The window! Thank you for listening. Sorry for my numerous mistakes. That was quite a tricky tongue twister at 1:30 in the morning when I'd not read it beforehand. But fun story, and it sounds like that is one of the origin stories for this Cthulhu mythos. I might just have a little quick look on Wikipedia and see if there's just a little bit of information about that. Because for those of you that aren't aware, Cthulhu that Lovecraft writes about is this huge submarine aquatic monster that perhaps was worshipped as some form of god. A bit of a Godzilla, but kind of cooler. And it seems like there's these sorts of like it's like, you know, it's got like a bit of a twisted version of Atlantis going on. And what was that old classic film? Is it 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea? However many leagues under the sea, and Journey to the Center of the Earth, and these sorts of things. And there's these sorts of like, they've got a name, but these like fishmen basically. So it seems like there's been some other civilization, there's some sort of darkness, and it's basically like, did that used to exist? Does it still exist? And there's often these themes of some sort of like psychological manipulation going on. Like basically people go mad if they somehow come into contact with these beings or these relics, and you know, it feels like the Bermuda Triangle and these sorts of like conspiracies and all the rest of it are sort of like tangled up in it all. That there's these sorts of like crazy forces on Earth, whether literal or not, you know, like whether there's actually physical monsters or if it's like monsters in your head or whatever, you know, dark stuff, but rather fascinating, I think. And it was interesting that he mentions Poe, who was one of his major inspirations, H.P. Lovecraft, I mean. Yeah, I've been wanting to give Poe a bash. And Franz Kafka is one of the ones like that's right at the top of my list as well to read. I was thinking of doing either Poe or Kafka as an audiobook soundscape as well, but I'll play around with it and see what I think. But they're both right up at the top of my to-do list. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, I felt like I had to finish with a little bit of force, Olivia, because he throws in the exclamation marks at the end, so they're not in capitals or anything. But it's like it reminds me a little bit of Monty Python actually, when they're at the the castle of Arg when the scribe writing seems to get killed whilst writing and just ends up writing Arg. I guess it's probably a parody of many things, like Tolkien has the "We cannot get out" in Balin's tomb and everything in Lord of the Rings, and they're actually writing not only account of past events but actually present events as well. So a lot of this is past. He's telling his tale, but then he's actually seeing this vision as he writes at the very end. So up until the end is near, everything has been a past account, but then I hear a noise at the door as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it. Obviously, we're now back in the present. These were very common styles back in the day. You get this with Dracula a lot, where the character is almost like telling the story as it happened, but then there's past, then there's present. Even if it's written as a letter, if that makes sense. There's like a shift in time. So this is happening as he writes. It shall not find me. So I guess this is him ending himself. He's got a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde feeling, I think, here with this requiring the drugs to sort of clear his head, and then he's like, seems like he's going to try and end his life to escape the madness or whatever, however you want to put it. But then it says, God, that hand, in italics with exclamation mark, the window, which is obviously what this is all about, I would imagine. I mean, this particular picture doesn't look particularly slippery, but perhaps there's another story that uses a similar image. I'm not sure, or it's just a particular interpretation. But I enjoyed I enjoyed that little reading, and I hope you did too. So do let me know if you'd like to hear some more H.P. Lovecraft. I was planning on doing The Shadow over Innsmouth as a full audiobook, and I actually switched to The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde at the last minute. But I had started reading this, or just reading it through and practicing a little bit, and I switched to Jekyll and Hyde at the last minute. But I feel like there's a lot of fun and good reads to be had with H.P. Lovecraft. So, somebody left a thumbs down on the stream. Good times. But yeah, definitely don't dream of windows. Keep those out of it. I saw that Mama Fox was heading off to bed. Let me see what you were up to with your drinking game. There was a few mistakes. It was a pretty clean read until about halfway through, and it was like, ooh, there's some tricky bits. So Ducks popped in. I don't know if you're still here, Ducks, but welcome to you. Nice to see you. Oh, that's very kind, Holly. Thank you. No, thanks, Fox fans. I guess you've gone already now, Meg, but take care. Thank you so much for joining. It's been really nice to have you in the chat. And thank you for the praise as well. Much appreciated. Take care. Oh, so Logan, you started it today. Shannon was right behind you. Shocking behaviour. Back to your old ways. Yeah, thither is a good one. Try and get that into everyday language. Mama Fox Very kind. And Logan and Mariel and Olivia and Jasmine. Oh, coffee and fudge, says Mariel. I've been enjoying that very combination recently, actually. Always liked a bit of fudge, but I don't eat it very much these days, to be honest. And Maria's mum brought me a little Christmas box of fudge, so I've been having that. I don't know if I was supposed to save that for Christmas. I didn't even think about it. I literally just I just like cracked it open like about half an hour later. So I've been having some fudge with my coffee. So or tea, whatever's going on. Yeah, no, I'm not surprised, Olivia. I'm not surprised it caught you off guard. Yeah, he was done for, Jasmine. He was done for. There was no more after that. Like I said, it was a short one. Thanks, Fox fans. I was going to ask if anybody had got a drink on the go tonight, actually. I had that tea at the beginning of the stream, which I actually forgot about. So I've left half of it. It's cold. But I will still drink it. It's tasty chai tonight. How was thine breakfast? Thou shalt see... Nay, how would you... One shalt see thee upon the morrow. Oh, you don't see a thumbs down. Alright, Fox fans. I'm gonna head to bed. The missions were accomplished of having some Brothers Grimm, having a little HP Lovecraft, having a lovely chat. As usual, a much longer intro chat than I intended, but it was really nice. Lovely to have a good little crew. You're always so flipping nice to each other as well, which I really appreciate. Wonderful stuff. Oh, and hello to Wen and another name I can't pronounce, but thank you for the hearts. Thanks ever so much for joining. Oh, you're a Fox fan now, Mariel. Good to hear it. Good to hear it. I saw something pop up at one point. Oh, I think it was a subscriber, I think. Yeah, I think it was a subscriber. I glanced up. I didn't want to get distracted. Yeah. No, but that was really nice. That was really nice. I've just realised that the chat was sat right underneath the Foxy Book Club. And I don't normally mind, but as it's chosen green today, they were clashing, to say the least, but never mind. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Alright, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. It's been really nice. It's 1:39 here in Sweden, so I will hit the hay, get some sleep, and I will try my very, very best to get a nice wodge of Dracula to you next Sunday. And, you know, if I can squeeze in a stream somewhere in the week, I will absolutely do that. Like, I might even just pop onto Twitch and stream some video games or something, and you know, just have a little chat with you. And you know, if I'm having a little break, I can stream at the same time and just hang out a little bit. And then you know, if I get chapter 21 of Dracula sorted for Sunday, I might try and have a stream next Sunday as well. They've been really nice, these Sunday streams. So, yeah. And if you have any other thoughts, like things that you particularly enjoy in the streams, things that you don't enjoy in the streams, any sort of suggestions or feedback or anything at all, please do leave me a regular comment on the video as well. I really appreciate that. I mean, it's nice to try and encourage other people that watch this in the future to comment as well, because like we have all this lovely chat in the book club, but then if the comment section is quite quiet, some people seem to be more shy. As if there's quite a few comments, people seem to be a little bit more open to say hello and share their thoughts and feelings and stuff like that. So yeah, if you've any feedback about my streams, I know some people prefer the readings, some people really like the chat. Normally I want the intro chat to be about half an hour, so it gives time for people to come in, especially if I've not announced the stream, and just get settled, say hello, have a little chat. But sometimes it can become an hour, or like today it was like an hour and 45 minutes or something, I think. Crazy. But it was I really enjoyed it. So yeah, and obviously I do appreciate the thumbs up, gotta say. Oh, you didn't install Skyrim yet, Picky Mickey. Yeah, but I'll definitely have some more Skyrim. And I'm really enjoying a bit of Battlefield 4. I'm enjoying a bit of Total War Shogun 2 and Total War Empire. And they are weirdly relaxing games. I think they could be quite relaxing to watch, these Total War games. Like it's like so chill. To say it's conquest and battle and everything, there's a lot of historical stuff. There's quite nice things to read, like, you know, that I could read out aloud. And it's just weirdly peaceful. It's like a real zen game. I've sort of missed playing these Total War games. Like, until a few weeks ago, I'd not played one of these Total War games for as with many games, probably like 6 years or 7 years or something like that. So it's been nice just playing a little bit here and there. But I could definitely stream a little bit, and I still want to stream Papers, Please at some time. Like, I know it's not a new game or anything, but I think it would be quite fun. And, you know, maybe I should get a new title as well and be a bit more up to date. But, you know, yeah, get yourself on Twitch, Faye. It's super easy to use, in my opinion. And you know, obviously free to use, just like YouTube and everything. So, but it's nice for streaming, nice for gaming streaming. And for some reason, the Skyrim stream last time on YouTube was really laggy. There was some setting that it did not like there, as it's been super smooth over on Twitch. So I feel like I trust Twitch a little bit more for the gaming. And maybe keep YouTube for the book clubs or something like that. But it was nice to test it out. It was still nice to test it out. Oh, yeah, no worries, Jasmine. I try to reply to as many things as I can, but there's millions. Sorry, that sounds really pretentious. I was saying there's millions of comments that I can't answer, but there are obviously many comments that I don't reply to, but I read everything. And appreciate it massively. And if it just catches me at a moment, like, I try to at least answer questions, and then if it's just a general comment, I generally just leave a heart, and, you know, it puts a smile on my face. Young whippersnapper. I'm no whippersnapper these days, Shannon. I be getting on. I be 32 years old, not 32 years young, Shannon. But, you know, hopefully many more years to come. But hopefully not with a flipping corona lockdown. We would all like to say goodbye to that. Alright. It's bedtime, Fox fans. It's bedtime. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Yeah, you see, before I go crazy. No, Twitch is definitely not a useless app. And by the way, I'm not trying to make you feel old or anything. I'm just being silly. Yeah. Ah, cheers, Glenn. Glad you've been enjoying the Lovecraft. So yeah, I thought it was good fun reading that Dagon story, and there's about 15 more stories in this collection. And there's a couple of pretty lengthy ones. Like I said, they're all short stories, but some, so Color Out of Space. How long was that in the end? Was it nearly 2 hours? And it's not the longest either. The Call of Cthulhu and yeah, there's a few like lengthier ones. Yeah, The Shadow over Innsmouth was relatively lengthy as well. A couple of hours, definitely. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like there's lots to enjoy there. And of course, like I said before, if you've not listened to The Color Out of Space yet, the HP Lovecraft audiobook soundscape, give it a go. Even if just for the relaxing ambience with the crackling fire and the storm that I put together and everything, I really enjoyed doing that. It's really cool. I try. And yeah, A Little Princess, that's I was not going into details earlier, but basically once I finished Dracula, A Little Princess and Alice in Wonderland are the first two that I want to focus on. And of course, I still want to drop in these like little other sorts of videos and like a little complete audiobook here and there. And obviously there's like the live streams and everything. But for that sort of like weekly installment or whatever, those two are top of the list. But I've got a very long list of things that I would love to do. Yeah. And do try Jekyll and Hyde as well, if you've not tried Jekyll and Hyde. Animal Farm as well. They're all complete, so give them a bash. All right. Thank you so much for joining. And just a quick mention, if you do want to access my full audio library of basically everything I've ever produced for YouTube and even things on Twitch and live streams and various exclusive things, do consider joining me over on Patreon as well. And that support is massively appreciated. I wouldn't have been able to continue the way I have if it wasn't for Patreon, so you guys have been an absolute blessing. Oh, thank you so much, Shannon. Thank you so much. You're incredibly kind. Thank you so much. An hour and a half, right, yeah. So Call of Cthulhu and the Innsmouth one, they must be around 2 hours at least, I would say, because they're a little bit longer than that one. So yeah. All right. Take care, everyone. Lovely to spend some time with you. It's been a wonderful 3.5 hours. Been really nice. So you take care. Stay foxy. And of course, read.